Well now, reckon y'all settle in close round this here fire, and mind tellin' me what time it is, where y'all at, and where y'all watchin' from. Yes, sir, I'm mighty curious, and bless your hearts, I do love hearin' it. Now, don't you move a muscle, young uns, 'cause I got a tale that'll curl your toes and tickle your fancy all at once. It's 'bout a feller they called Pecos Bill, by golly, the wildest, most impossible cowboy ever to set hoof on this here wide open land. Don't laugh yet, now, 'cause some of what I tell ya might make your eyes pop, and that's sure as shootin' true dot now. Pecos Bill, he worked like the rest of us. No, sir, he popped up in the Pecos River country, born in a storm so fierce it'd make a grown man wish for shelter in a haystack. But old Bill, he didn't much care for ordinary comforts. No, he had the grit and gumption of 100 men, and the mischief of a fox in a henhouse. They say he was raised by coyotes, and I reckon that's where he picked up that wild streak. Yes, I Bill could run faster'n the prairie wind, and wrestle a rattler by its tail, without a hair ruffled on his head. Now, let me tell you about the first time Pecos Bill ever rode a horse. He was just knee-high to a jackrabbit, and folks figured he'd need a heap o' learnin' to stay in the saddle. Well, by the time he clambered atop all lightning now, that was a horse with more spunk than a sack of firecrackers. Bill was whooping and hollerin', spinning circles round the barn, faster'n a twister on a summer day. "Lordy," said little Susie, peeping from behind the porch post, "he's gonna fly off." But y'all listen here, Bill didn't fly off. Nope, he rode that horse till the sun dipped low and the stars started peeking through, laughing all the while like the moon itself had tickled his funny bone. And that's just the beginning, mind ya. Bill had a way with animals, but don't you think it were the soft, cuddly kind. No, sir. He tamed rattlesnakes that'd bite a man's boot clean off, roped wildcats with a grin on his face, and even taught a herd of longhorns to dance in a line like they were at some hootin' and hollerin' hoedown. How'd he do it? Young uns asked, eyes wide as saucers. "Reckon it's magic," I whispered back, leaning in, or maybe just Bill being born with a touch of lightning in his fingers and fire in his heart. Now, some folks, they'd call him reckless or a downright fool, but Bill, he had a heart as big as the Texas sky. He'd help folks in need or save a settler from a rattler bite, quick run a blink, all while cracking jokes that'd make even the grumpiest old coot chuckle. He wasn't just a hero, no sir, he was a legend that seemed too tall to be true. Yet here I am tellin' it to y'all, and I ain't fibbin'. So settle in, young uns, hold your horses, and keep your ears open. Pecos Bill's tale is as winding and wild as the rivers he rode, and he ain't done stirring up trouble yet. Now, who wants to hear about the time he lassoed a tornado and rode it clear across the plains, screamin' with laughter the whole way? Hush up now. Don't you get ahead of me, y'all might just get a peek at a world where anything, and I mean anything, is possible. Asterisk, well now, hold your hats tight, young uns, 'cause Pecos Bill, he weren't done showing off his fancy. Y'all ever heard tell of a feller ridden a tornado? No, I didn't think so. By golly, it sounds plumb crazy, but Bill, he made it look as natural as baking biscuits on a Sunday morning. It happened one sweltering summer day when the sky turned a fierce shade o' gray, and the prairie folks started fussin' over whether to batten down their shutters or pray to the good Lord above. Bill, he just grinned, tiptoed to the nearest twister like it were a hound dog begging for a pat. And well, don't you know, it grabbed him like an old friend. "Lordy mercy," shouted little Tommy from the porch swing, eyes nearly popping out of his head. "He's gonna fly to the moon." "Shush now," I said, tapping my knee. "He'll bring us back something shiny. Y'all wait." And sure enough, Pecos Bill whooped and hollered, twisting and turning through the storm like it were a wild bronco at the county fair. Lightning streaked around him. Rain whipped his hat clean off, and still he laughed, the kind of laughter that makes your heart feel like it's dancing. Folks say the tornado carried him over every ranch, every cactus patch, and even past the rocky cliffs where the coyotes howled. You reckon anyone could survive such a ride? Well, Bill did, with not so much as a smudge on his britches. When he finally touched down, the townsfolk ran out with eyes wide as saucers, and Bill just dusted himself off, winked, and tipped his hat. "By golly," he said, "ain't that a sight?" Young uns clapped their hands, some giggling, some shivering, and old Bill, he bowed like a gentleman, though his grin said he'd enjoyed the whirlwind more'n any fancy ball. Now, don't you think Bill was all fun and games? No, sir. He had a reckoning way about him. If trouble found a settler, or if some varmints tried causing a ruckus, Bill was there faster than a jackrabbit on hot coals. There was this one tail y'all hush now. Listen close about a rattlesnake that got into a settler's barn, big as a wagon axle. Bill, he moseyed right up, talked to that snake like it were kin. "Now, don't you be mackin' trouble, partner," he said, voice calm as a creek in spring. And lordy, that snake, it slithered off like a gentleman takin' his leave. Young uns gasped and whispered, "How did he do that?" I just shrugged, leaned back, and said, "Some folks got a touch o' magic in 'em, and some folks got Pecos Bill in. Y'all know, there's a certain charm to a man who can walk into danger and come out laughing, yet never forget the folks around him. That's Bill. He'd sit by the fire, tell stories taller than the hills, and when the children asked questions, he'd answer with mischief in his eyes. "Why'd you ride the tornado, Bill?" They'd ask. "Reckon I wanted a better view of the world, young uns." He'd wink, and maybe stir up a little fun while I'm at it. And fun, by golly, he stirred aplenty. He'd lasso wildcats into line-dancing formations, or ride buffalo across the plains faster than a train, just to see who'd keep up. Folks'd shake their heads, muttering reckless fool, but deep down they admired the heart, the courage, and the impossible feats of that Pecos Bill. Hush up now, yo, 'cause the next tale's even wilder, and it'll have your jaws on the floor. If I do say so myself, **, now listen here, young'uns, you'll best scoot closer, 'cause this here part's got more twists than a coiled rattler. Pecos Bill, he weren't satisfied with just ridden tornadoes and raising eyebrows. No, sir, he had a way of turning the ordinary into something downright extraordinary. Folks round these parts would swear on a stack of Bibles that he could make the desert bloom with a stomp of his boot, or call critters from miles around with a whistle sharp as a whip. How'd he do it, mister? Little Annie piped up, clutching my sleeve. "Don't you fret, darlin'. Some things ain't meant to be explained," I said. Winking at her one fine mornin', Pecos Bill spotted a herd of buffalo stampeding toward a settler's cabin, dust churning like a winter storm. Most folks would have froze right where they stood, but Bill, He just cracked a grin and hollered something that sounded more like a song than words. By golly, them buffaloes skidded to a halt, tail flicking, like they'd been trained for a hoedown. The settler's jaw dangled, and young uns, I swear, you could have heard a pin drop if'n there'd been one round. "Lordy," muttered old Mr. Hensley, "ain't no way a man does that. But y'all, that's Pecos Bill for Yano fence too high. No river too wide, no critter too wild dot now. There was this one time a storm rolled in, black as a crow's wing, and Bill figured he'd try something downright daring. He saddled up a wild Mustang, named her Midnight, sharp-eyed and faster'n a greased pig at the fair, and rode her straight into the heart of the tempest. Young uns, I saw Tommy's eyes widen like he'd just seen a ghost. "He's crazy," he whispered. And maybe he was, but Bill, he thrived in the impossible. Rain plastered his hair, mud splashed his boots, yet he emerged laughing, Midnight neighing like she'd never felt freer. "Reckon the storm's just another playmate," he said, dustin' off, "and playin' with friends ain't never hurt nobody." Pecos Bill, he had a knack for findin' trouble the way a hound smells a rabbit, but he also had a heart bigger'n the Texas plains. There was a time he found a family stranded by a dry creek bed. No water, no shade, and he, by golly, dug a channel till water flowed like a miracle. Children clapped, settler folks cried, and Bill just tipped his hat and winked at me like he knew I'd tell this tale right. "Some things," he said, "ain't for showing off. They're for doing when it's right. And don't y'all think Pecos Bill ever got lonely? No, sir. He had animals, he had children, he had folks that admired him, and he had the wide, wild country itself as company. He'd sit by the fire with the young uns gathered round, answering their endless questions, and laughing when they tried to outwit him. "Why'd you ride that Mustang in the storm, Bill?" little Susie asked, eyes shiny as morning dew. "Well, darlin'," he said, "sometimes you gotta dance with danger to see the sky in all its glory. So, hush up now, y'all. Lean in a mite closer, 'cause Bill's next adventure, well, it's got him facing a creature so wild and strange that even I, old as I am, gotta shake my head in disbelief. Keep your wits 'bout ye, young'uns, 'cause the legend don't pause for breath. And Pecos Bill, by golly, he's just getting started. Now, young'uns, you'll best hunker down, 'cause Pecos Bill's about to meet something that'd make a grown man's knees shake. Yes, there was this here critter bigger'n any bear or cougar y'all ever seen. Eyes glintin' like coals in a hearth, and fur as black as midnight. Folks round the prairie whispered about it, called it the Thunderhoof, and I swear on my old hat, it could outrun a stallion and stomp the ground so hard it'd rattle the very hills. Little Tommy clutched my sleeve and whispered, "He's gonna fight it?" "Hold your horses, darlin'," I said. "Bill's got a way with things wilder'n words. Pecos Bill." He spotted Thunderhoof dancing across the plains, tail lashin', mane flyin', and he grinned like a possum in a cornfield. "By golly," he muttered, "ain't no challenge I can't wrangle." Now, Bill didn't draw a gun. Don't you think he would? No, sir. He approached it gentle-like, talkin' soft as a summer breeze. "Easy there, big feller," he said, voice calm as creek water. And let me tell you, the creature stopped, ears twitchin', nostrils flarin', and the prairie seemed to hush just to watch what had happened next. Little Susie gasped. "He's talking to it like it's a person." "Ain't that the truth?" I said, smiling. Pecos Bill had this gift. Y'all, he could speak to critters as if they understood every word, and by golly, they did. With a flick of his wrist and a laugh that echoed across the plains, he lassoed Thunderhoof not with rope, but with patience, respect, and a touch o' daring that'd make your heart pound. Young'uns, I swear, I ain't macking this up. Bill rode Thunderhoof like he'd been ridden it since the day it was born, and the creature, mighty as it was, obeyed him gentle as a lamb. Now, reckon that weren't the end of the day's mischief. Bill had a mind to show folks how to ride alongside danger and grin while doing it. He gathered the settler children and taught 'em to keep their wits about him, even when the plains seemed wild beyond reason. "Don't you fret," he said. "Y'all can handle more'n you reckon, if you just keep your eyes open and your hearts brave." Little Annie whispered to Tommy, "He makes the impossible look easy." And bless their hearts, I reckon she weren't wrong. Evening came soft and slow, painting the sky with purples and golds, and Bill, he rode Thunderhoof across the horizon, silhouette sharp as a knife's edge. Children clapped and cheered, settler folks nodded in awe. And I just sat there rocking my chair, grinning like a fool, thinking how lucky we were to witness such a legend walk among us. Pecos Bill, by golly, made the impossible part of everyday life, and somehow he made it feel like magic we could almost reach out and touch. And so, hush up now, young'uns, 'cause the tale's about to turn mysterious. Bill's next adventure will take him past the known plains, and to lands that seem drawn from dreams and shadows. Keep your ears perked, hearts steady, 'cause the legend of Pecos Bill is about to ride into something downright unbelievable. Asterisk now, young'uns, you'll better settle in tight, 'cause Pecos Bill's next adventure takes us beyond the prairie, past the hills, and into a land that's stranger than a three-legged cow in a hayloft. Bill, he had a way of finding the uncanny, the things folks whispered about but never dared speak of aloud. One dusky evening, he rode past a canyon where the rocks glowed faintly like embers in a dying fire, and a mist curled along the cliffs, soft and silver. Little Tommy leaned in close, whispering, "Is that real, mister?" I chuckled, tapping his shoulder. "Sure as shootin', young'uns." And Pecos Bill's about to make it even stranger. Bill had heard tell of a creature they called the sand serpent, a serpent so long it could coil around the canyon twice, scales glittering like sunlit glass. Folks said it vanished when you tried to approach, disappearing into dust and shadows. But Bill, he weren't scared none. No, sir. He rode Midnight, his faithful Mustang, up to the canyon's edge, eyes steady, grin firm, and he spoke soft like, "Now, I reckon we're gonna be friends. Don't you worry none." Children gasped, young'uns huddled, and even old Mr. Hensley peeked from behind a boulder, muttering, "Lordy, that boy's got no fear." The sand serpent, y'all, it stirred. Its scales shimmered like molten silver in the twilight, eyes twin lanterns of green fire. And Pecos Bill, by golly, he reached out with a calm so deep it could hush a storm. "Easy now, friend," he whispered. The serpent slithered closer, curious and cautious, and y'all wouldn't believe how gentle it became. Bill climbed atop it, holding on like he'd done it 100 times, and together they glided along the canyon's edge. The children squealed with delight and awe, and even the adults leaned forward, mouths slack as if seeing the impossible made 'em young again. "Bill," little Susie whispered, "does it hurt?" "No, darling, it's all about respect," he said, tiptoeing along the serpent's back. "Treat a creature right, and it'll show you wonders you ain't never dreamed of. Y'all, I swear that serpent curled and twisted with the grace of a river, and Pecos Bill rode it like a cowboy born to tame the very wind. The stars winked overhead, and the canyon seemed to hum, holding its breath for the legend unfolding before it. Even after the serpent disappeared into the shadows, Bill returned to camp laughing softly, dusting his boots, and settling beside the fire. Children clutched at his sleeves, peppering him with questions, and he answered them all with that twinkle in his eye. "Reckon the world's full of wonders," he said, "and sometimes the wildest ones are the best friends we'll ever meet. And bless their hearts, yo, that night all of us, young, old, settler and stranger alike, felt like we'd touched something extraordinary. Hush now, young'uns, 'cause the last part of Pecos Bill's tale, by golly, it's the one that'll leave your heart pounding and your eyes wide. The biggest challenge, the wildest adventure, and the final laugh all waitin' just over the next hill dot asterisk. Well now, young'uns, y'all best settle in real close, 'cause this here's the last stretch of Pecos Bill's legend, and by golly, it's a doozy." Bill had faced storms, serpents, and critters taller than barn doors, but there came a day when even he had to reckon with something that made the prairie hold its breath. A canyon opened up before him, dark as a coal pit, whispering secrets like it knew every tale ever told. Little Annie clutched my sleeve tight and whispered, "Do you think he can do it?" I just tipped my hat, wakin'. "Sure as shootin', darlin'. Pecos Bill ain't never met a challenge he couldn't ride or laugh at." Now, deep inside that canyon lived a beast called the Shadow Cougar. They said, a creature so swift it could vanish in the blink of an eye, eyes glimmering green like forest lanterns, and claws sharp enough to slice the wind itself. Folks avoided that canyon, swearing no man nor beast had tamed it. But Pecos Bill, well, he saw opportunity where others saw danger. He rode midnight to the edge, knees steady, hat low, and called out soft like, "Now, friend, reckon we'll dance a while." The children gasped, and Tommy whispered, "He talks to every critter like they're kin." I laughed, shacking my head. "Reckon that's just Pecos Bill being Pecos Bill." The Shadow Cougar appeared, silent as nightfall, coiled muscles glimmering under the last light. Bill slid from midnight, standing tall and calm, speaking words only he could understand. "Easy now, mighty one," he said, voice low as creek water. And yo, the beast, it paused, curiosity sparking in its eyes. Slowly, ever so slowly, it bowed its head, letting Bill approach. Young'uns held their breath, some even hid behind my rocking chair, eyes wide as full moons. By golly, it seemed as if the prairie itself was watching, waiting to see what a boy raised by coyotes could do. Bill climbed atop the Shadow Cougar, ridden it with the grace of a dancer, laughing softly, whispering secrets to the creature as if it known him all its life. Together they leapt across canyon ridges, shadows stretching long and bold beneath them. Children squealed, settler folks clapped, and even the oldest hands, ones that hadn't smiled in years, found themselves laughing at the impossible spectacle. Pecos Bill, by golly, had done what no one thought could be done. He rode the untamable, turned danger into wonder, and left a mark on the prairie that'd last longer than any trail of dust. As the sun dipped behind the hills, Bill returned to the camp, dusted, grinning, and sitting by the fire with the children gathering round. "Reckon," he said, "the world's full of tailies taller than hills, and any of y'all can be part of 'em if you just keep your eyes open and your hearts brave." Little Susie whispered, "Do y'all think we'll ever see him again?" And I just chuckled, patting her head. Sure as shooting, the legend never really leaves. Pecos Bill lives in every laugh, every wild ride, every impossible dream y'all dare to chase. So, young uns, keep that in mind when y'all wander the plains or the hills, when the wind whistles strange and the sky glows like it's painted with fire. Pecos Bill might be ridden somewhere out there, laughing, challenging the world, and reminding us all that even the wildest dreams can come true, if we're bold enough to chase 'em.